So, can you think of 3 words that start with the letter P that will improve us as substitute teachers? See how they compare to mine. Also, an audio clip this week that will make you say Mahalo. And I'll give you the reason why NY Yankee Fan 10 will always have a special place in my heart. It's episode 30.
Substitute Teachers Lounge.
All right, guys, episode 30, Substitute Teachers Lounge. Listen, I want to apologize to some of you, and here's why. I've told you that I would really like for you to leave me not only ratings on Apple Podcasts, but also some reviews, and I want to talk about some of those to start today. First of all, I know it's a little bit cumbersome, to be honest, and to be honest, that's why it's taken me a while to recognize some of you. I will tell you the easiest way that I have found to do it is when you go to the Apple Podcast app, just search for Substitute Teachers Lounge will come up. You choose that, and then it will allow you to leave a review. I think that's the easiest way to do it. Here's why New York Yankee Fan 10 has a special place in my heart. Way back on July 13th, 2019, they left this review. Love Greg's enthusiasm and the fact that there is now a podcast specifically for us subs. 4 episodes in, and I do hope there will be more variety of grade levels, though. I sub only elementary, and I'm not connected with this as much as I would as middle and high school subs, but may still be coming in future episodes. Thanks, Greg. I appreciate those comments. I hope, especially with interviews, that we can cover more of the elementary school things. Here's a review from October 18th from Sub Mama Cindy. Mr. Greg and I have the same philosophy on a lot of substitute-ish things, and it's so refreshing to hear him share his love of subbing and the joy he finds in working with the kids. I've subbed every day for several years now in all grade levels, as well as special settings classes. Subbing must be similar to being a grandparent. We can love them, listen to them, let them know they're important, guide them for a day or so, and then give them back. As substitutes, we have the luxury of getting to just teach and love the kids without having to attend meetings, endless training, and spend our nights and weekends planning and doing paperwork. This is what teaching should be. Keep up the good work, Mr. Greg. That is Miss Cindy in Fort Mill. December 2nd from Jacob and Olivia. I love listening to Substitute Teachers Lounge. Greg picks relevant and interesting topics to cover and gives valuable information on how to navigate different situations as a substitute teacher. You'll hear more from them in future months, by the way. And then December 18th from, I hope I pronounced your name correctly, Natalia L. I am planning to sub soon, and this podcast is so informative and encouraging. At first, I thought I would only choose elementary, but now after listening to most episodes, I am more confident of trying middle and maybe later high school. Thank you. Good deal. I appreciate all those comments. Please keep those coming. I apologize again for not getting and talking about some of those sooner, but we'll grow from here, and I hope that all of you are enjoying it, and I would love to hear your feedback. Now, I mentioned last week I wanted you all to try to start sending me sound bites that I can use in the podcast. That would probably be an easier way than us trying to get together and schedule interviews, and some of you have already done that. In fact, we're going to hear from Katie right now, and I think you know from the opening where she's from. So take it away, Katie.
Aloha, my name is Katie Metzger, and I live on the island of Oahu. I live in Waialua, which is on the North Shore, and I just started substitute teaching, and let me tell you, I was petrified to get started. I took the test and the course, and then I was just scared, to be quite honest. I had done college counseling, and I love teenagers and high school counseling, but being in a classroom with 30, 35 kids was intimidating for me. I work well on an interpersonal level, but just I'm not afraid of public speaking or anything, but just having that amount of kids all at once just felt a little overwhelming. But I was encouraged, and your podcast really has helped me so much that I took the plunge and I did substitute teach one day, and it was like the best day. I had so much fun. And then the second day was 10 times easier, and that's it. I've only done it twice. So I almost feel like I shouldn't even be calling you just yet, but I wanted to thank you and let you know that I'm picking up all these great tips and feeling more and more confident. And there is such a need for substitute teachers, and I love the opportunity to get into the classroom and connect with the kids, and just to see them so interested in connecting with me is a beautiful gift. And I think it's just because I genuinely I'm interested in them and their lives and doing whatever I can in that day, in that moment to help them. So I can relate to a lot of what you share on the show. One thing that I guess I could contribute, one little bit of a tool that I used in a classroom that helped me recently, or just on that first and second day only that I've substitute taught, was I asked the kids to write up 3 questions of would you rather. And the reason why I did this is because I was a little frustrated and not getting to know them. In counseling, you're in a private setting, and I could get to know the kids, but it's just really hard to do that in one day in a class that you only have them for 45 minutes or an hour. So at the end of the lesson, I asked them to write 3 questions for me of would you rather, and they were so into it. And the questions that they came up with were awesome, and I whipped through them. I looked through them and I grabbed a few and asked them, and they were so interested in each other's answers too. It was great. And then I used them for the next class. So it was kind of like this sponge activity that I could use, and it came from them, so it related to their lives. It seemed pertinent to their interests. So anyways, it kind of solved 2 little issues I had. One was getting to know the kids, and also having a relevant sponge activity that they would be into. And it was quick and easy. So anyways, that was one little thing that worked for me. And please just keep on with the great work. And I appreciate all you do and all the encouragement. So thanks again.
Wow, Katie, you were just too nice. I appreciate all those great comments. And let me tell you, that is an outstanding tool. And I hope I can pump you up a little bit, because I used that this week. I'm still in that 6th grade class. In fact, the teacher contacted me this week. I'm actually in there through the end of the month, so as a long-term sub, and I used that tool this week, Would You Rather, and it really went really well. It's a great bunch of kids in there, I'm glad I had an extra tool to show them. Now, let's get to the main part of our podcast here today. I hope that you have already been thinking about in your head, if you had to pick 3 words that begin with the letter P that will relate to you as either requirements of being a substitute teacher or things that will help you improve as a substitute teacher. Now, here's the 3 I thought of, and I won't say I was terrible when I first started out, but I certainly had a lot to learn in this category when I first started out, and I have greatly improved in it, and I am still not perfect at it. I'm not sure if I'll ever get perfect at it, but my first word that starts with the letter P is patience. I have often said to groups, I sometimes participate in church groups, and I mentioned that to teachers I eat lunch with this week. If you think you're a patient person, try this. For 1 week, everywhere you go, whether it's Walmart, whether it's in the traffic lights, always pick the line that's longest. If you can tolerate that for 1 week, very few people, even the ones that said they were patient, can do this. Some people said they could. I think I could if I was testing myself. Unfortunately, we get in a hurry a lot of time. I'm kind of paranoid about being late, so I'm almost always early everywhere I go. But that's just me. I mean, everybody's different. But try that sometimes. Test yourself on patience. To me, there are several different kinds of students that test you with patience, even in a nice way. Let me tell you, the seventh grade students that are at the school that I am currently long-term subbing, we got to be, we had pretty good relationships last year. And now that they've found out that I am teaching long-term sub in sixth grade, a lot of them will come over and visit me at the beginning of their lunch. Now, there could be other things I could be doing. I could say, hey, you guys get out of here. I really don't have time to deal with you today. But that's never really the case. I mean, I'm glad they're there. I'm glad they feel confident that they can come to me and talk about things, or maybe just have some fun conversations. Maybe just spend some time goofing off a little bit. It's an empty classroom because it's my planning period, so my students are off elsewhere. And that's one version of positive patience. I could say, I like to read, which isn't, I'm kind of slacking off on my reading. I used to be a good reader, and I'll get back to it. But I could tell them, I just don't have time for you guys today, but that's never the case. I mean, I really think a lot of those kids, some of them that used not to really interact with me that much last year, will now do that this year. So I'm very thankful for that. Other ways for patience, my own students, I have several different categories. Though, if I guarantee you that when I said the word patient, the first thing that popped into your mind was kind of the negative side of patience. Maybe a student tests you every single day, and a lot of times you get fed up or get almost fed up, and there's times when you want to just yell out and say, shut up, which isn't the best response. So those types of situations test our patience. I'll tell you something I did this week. Since I'm a long-term sub, I played around with a seating chart. I've been in there 4 weeks now, I guess. I've got roughly 3 to 4 weeks to go. There's some of those are days off because of holidays and that type of thing. But I tried a seating chart this week, and it really improved my situation. I like where the students are sitting. Most of them, I didn't move that much. I just changed the seating configuration. Before, it was like square blocks of 4 seats where two students were facing 2 other students. I didn't go to traditional rows. I did instead like 6 seats across with a break in the middle, and just kind of moved them around so that they were all facing the front of the room. And it has changed those classes immensely. I'm not sure all the students will tell you that, but the ones that I've talked to say, yeah, Mr. Collins, I like the seating chart, and it just seems like they're more attentive. And in that regard, it doesn't test my patience as much. I think that even the students that I have to call down a lot, we still get along great. I will talk to them one-on-one some, just like we're best friends at times. So, there are different types of students to test your patience. The third type that I thought of was also a positive type. There are some students that want to share stories with you. We've talked about this, and you just kind of need them, let them do that. You might be thinking, well, I have to get through this lesson plan. I have to do this. I have to get this finished, all that. But let them share their stories. Be patient with them. Be patient with the student that hangs around after class every day and has a story to share or talks to you. Be patient with the students that seem like they always have a problem with their computer, or they always have a difficult time finding the lesson they're supposed to be. Maybe because they weren't paying attention, but still it's a situation that we can improve on our patience. So all of those categories. And I know I'm leaving some out. situations that test your patience. Maybe you can think about those and let that be your soundbite this week. Remember, just go to your voice memo app on your iPhone, record for a while, hit share, and send it to me at gregcollinssubstitute@gmail.com. But that's the first word that starts with the letter P. Testing my patience and improving my patience will help me be a better substitute teacher. Now, my second word that starts with the letter P, and I'm going to guess that when I mentioned this at the top of the episode that you all knew that I would include this one in the group, and that's positivity. I really think the classroom is so much greater the more positive you can be with those students. You can just see the looks on their faces when you treat them positively, when you maybe give them a second chance in situations where other teachers may not have. Maybe that makes them feel just a little bit more important. There are so many ways we can be a positive. And I really think that the times of my life when I've been overly negative when I shouldn't have been, those weren't enjoyable. I would much prefer to be positive. The end of the week this week, we played a Kahoot. We're currently learning about India from both the ancient part of that, their old caste system. We're learning about some of their religion. And one of the things I mentioned was one of the questions I included in the Kahoot, one of the silly answers was, Mr. Collins in a bad mood. And one of the students, when they saw that up there, said, Mr. Collins, I don't think I've ever seen you in a bad mood. And, I was thankful for that. They've never seen me in a bad mood. I try my best to be positive all the time. It takes off in your students, too. You can tell they're more positive. I've had students come up to me, I've told you this a couple episodes ago, and said, Mr. Collins, we apologize if we've given you a hard time in any way. I've also seen students that were kind of negative acting when I first started teaching them, and now just kind of come across more positively to me as well because I've treated them that way. It's actually brought them out of their shell some because a lot of them are now discussing things that maybe they never would have discussed before just because I remain positive for them. And the thing that tests you sometimes is this. If we're not careful, we bucket students into categories. We have, if we're not careful, favorite students, and then maybe we're over positive with them and forget the ones that for whatever reason subconsciously has not risen to the top of our list. But let's try not to do that. Act positive to every student in your room, even the one that tests your patience, even the one that makes it difficult to be positive all the time because they keep asking you questions when you're trying to move on and get the lesson plan done. So by all means, be positive with those students. Positivity is my second letter P. And then the one at the end, I actually toyed around with several different words, and when I finally come to the word I wanted to use, it just seems so obvious to me. And I'm going to tell you about some strides in this category that we made this week. So my third word that starts with the letter P that will help us as substitute teachers is participation. And if there was ever a topic that we could talk about, and we probably will talk about this again in the future, this could have its own episode, a double episode all by itself. How do you get students to participate? Do you get students to participate? You can find articles, you can find discussions about things like don't ever make a student read if they don't want to. That kind of conversation has changed since I've been a kid. All of you have different opinions on that. I am someone who likes to challenge students. Let me tell you what we did or what I've done in certain areas. And this all goes hand in hand. I think patience and positivity and participation all go together they're just a nice, neat little package, because if you have all three, it really helps your classroom. I have noticed that some students that were really shy in class and never really wanted to do things are all of a sudden coming out of their shell and talking a lot, sharing their thoughts in class. One of the things that I really love to do, we had worked very hard this week on the India. We worked on it all week, the India chapters that they're reading. We spent one day taking notes. They did a map activity. They've done some participation reading. So we decided to do some popcorn reading. We've talked about that, where I read for a while, ask one of them to read for a while, and then either they or maybe me will ask somebody else to read. And it's funny. We live in a world where everybody gets a participation trophy now. I like to challenge everyone to become better and to realize why they're participating more. So what I did this week, in addition to the reading part, is we had time on Friday after the Kahoot competition to debate a little bit. I picked some subjects that I've picked before. It seems like the most popular debate topic I can ever come up with sixth graders is asking them if their parents or guardian have the right to install an app or Live 360 on their phone so that they can track them everywhere they go. Now, rest easy, folks. At least 75% of the students will say yes. Now, but what I noticed this weekend when I did this, students that never participate in class, their hands went up. They liked participating in the debate. Maybe they wouldn't have gone up a few weeks ago if I hadn't tried to get them involved. If I hadn't, I don't want to say made them read, but challenged them to read. All of a sudden, those hands are going up. It's funny, too. I always like to encourage you to get involved with extracurricular activities, or definitely if you just see one of your students out in public, interact with them. I've noticed even those students in class that I've seen at a restaurant, maybe seen a volleyball game, at the movies, they talk to me more now. I guess that just one contact made them feel better about participating with me and talking with me. Participation is the third P. There is so many ways we can do this. Get them involved in class. Remember, let them share their stories. I just love seeing all the hands go up, even the ones that didn't participate. Now, when I brought up the topic about parents tracking children, it was very rare that there wasn't a hand down. I mean, I said that opposite, that all hands weren't raised. It was very rare in any class that all the hands weren't raised. Everybody wanted to talk. What did I do? Did I cut them off? No, we planned about 15 minutes at the end of class, so I gave everybody a responsibility to talk. Now, the easiest way to do that is if you start off saying right from the beginning, okay, each person has a maximum of 60 seconds so we can get everybody to participate. Then you don't have to go back to a student that is taking longer than others and make them feel bad by cutting them off. So everybody got 60 seconds. It was an absolute great discussion. Everybody participated. I am one now that feels like participation is so key. And even though you might ask a student to read their notes, read something out of a book, and they say no, I really think that if you keep going back to them, you're finally going to get them to read. And before you know it, they're wanting to read every time when we're in there. I probably had about a half a dozen students that fit into the category that me or a para teacher that was in with me would encourage them to read. We would finally, quote, talk them into it. We didn't press them that hard, but when we could kindly see on their face that, yeah, I'll do it, I'll read for a little while, those hands went up the next days anytime we tried to get somebody to read. So I've actually seen that in my profession too, staff that worked for me that I would encourage to participate in our our weekly staff meetings. They wouldn't do it at first, and then I talked them into doing it, and then they started doing it all the time. So this works really well. So don't be hesitant. Now, be positive. Don't be mean about it. Don't say, little Johnny, you will read today. Encourage them and make sure that, don't lie to them, but make sure after they read that you find something positive to say about their reading. One student this week that the para finally talked into reading, he read and his enunciation was just amazing. It was really good. So I made sure I talked about that. And of course, he wanted to read. The first day we were reading one paragraph each. The next day, I actually told them they could read as long as they want. And I had one student read an entire page. So believe me, this works. Get those students to participate. I'll tell you another reason, maybe the best one. When they're participating, they're not finding ways to disrupt the class. Now, not all students, in fact, the minority of students fall into this category, the disruptors. If you get them involved, all of a sudden they're raising their hand to participate instead of disrupting the rest of the class. So I would encourage all of you to get your students to participate, ask them questions. In fact, I like what Katie had to share with us today, the tool she shared about would you rather. I'm going to keep trying in my class because these are the types of things that encourage participation as well. Every student wants to get involved. Every student kind of feels like what they have to say is cooler than all the others. And I guess for that matter, I just kind of described every adult too, because unfortunately, we as adults have a bad habit of tuning out because we think what we have to say is a lot more important than what the person's talking to us has to say. Isn't that a bad habit to get into? Get them to participate. I would even try to get them to make sure they're listening to the other students. Ask at the end of class what they liked about what the other students said. Make sure they're participating. That way they will get to participate. They will get to participate more. So those are my 3 Ps. Now, please send me a soundbite. You've got several topics you could use now. Comment on what Katie said. Comment on what Mr. Collins, you left out a P. Comment on that. I would like to use it next week. Use your voice memo app on your iPhone. Hit the 3 dots, hit share, and send it to Greg Collins Substitute at gmail.com. I will close as I used to do by reading something I saw on a school hallway wall this week. A map is no good unless you know where you are now. I thought that was a good one. You don't know how to get where you're going if you don't know where you are now. And then finally, you are going to think so weird of me after I say this, but since, I'm kind of a superhero guy, but I never have really watched all the movies. My best friend is a big Marvel fan. So since Marvel's owned by Disney now and we have the Disney Plus in our house, I'm trying to get all the Marvel movies watched. There are 23 of them. And I'm up to about number 12, believe it or not. The Christmas holiday helped. But of course, with school schedule, volleyball schedule, it's really only a couple of weeks now, if at that. But I want to leave you with a thought that was from one of the Thor movies. He basically said, I'd rather be a great man than a great king. I like that. I would rather be great to others and work with them rather than look over them and look down on them. So I'd rather be a great man than a great king. I hope you've enjoyed episode 30 of Substitute Teachers Lounge. Music provided by Ben Sound.